go. Okay, so yes, I'm Nicole, everyone, and I am currently finishing up my last year of the Bachelor of Food and Agribusiness degree. And I think I speak on behalf of my whole cohort when I say that the last couple of years where we've really had the great opportunity to engage with a lot of people of industry, it has really given us a really broad understanding of what there is out there. And it's also given us, I think, better preparation for what there is when we do graduate. So I'll just be running through some of my key engagements this afternoon. And I think one of the best ones was that late last year, I did have this opportunity to do a 12-week internship at the Sydney One Harvest site as a part of my Bachelor of Food and Agribusiness degree. So as a part of the internship, I was involved in daily quality assurance activities, such as checking the produce before it was dispatched out. And everyone at the site was also really great in showing me how GMP audits and the like are also performed as well. And as a part of my internship, I also did consolidate some of the various auditing standards together. So as some of you might know, like BRC Global Standards, Coles and Woolies, they all have very similar contents and some of them are actually the same. So by bringing them all together into like specific auditing topics, then I hope that helped to streamline the internal auditing processes for One Harvest. And it was really great to also take a look at what exactly is in each of the auditing standards as well. As a part of my internship, I also did get to perform an investigation into improved wash processes on kale, which I will run through in just a moment. And so in terms of this year, I think one of the greatest things was actually doing an honest thesis. And as a part of this, I did get to perform a food safety culture assessment together with One Harvest and Learn from Cultivate. And I think what was really great is that rather than just reading papers, I actually got to understand how food safety culture is actually assessed in a commercial environment and what are the factors like influencing food safety culture as well. So in terms of my kale project, that was one of the main things that I worked on during my internship with One Harvest. Basically, we focused on kale because it's a very waxy and hydrophobic leaf, and it's got very curly edges. And just because of how kale grows as well, then water tends to collect along the stem. So a lot of these factors sort of increase the potential harborage of bacteria and makes it a little bit more harder to wash compared to the other leafy greens. So as a part of this, I got to take a really close look at the different types of wash processes at the Sydney and the Bairnsdale One Harvest site. And I think one of the major findings was that because kale tends to float on the water surface a lot more than the other leafy greens, then you really need to make sure that there's a really good submergence of the kale in the water so that there's a better reduction in microflora. So it's really great that I wasn't only just able to look at how the Sydney site operated, but how the Bairnsdale site operated as well. And as a second part of my kale investigation, I was also given the opportunity to actually test out a food grade surfactant called sodium dodecyl sulfate and see if that actually improved the log reduction of bacteria on the kale. So surfactants are just basically like soaps, and they decrease the surface tension between bacteria and the leaf surface, so the bacteria is more easily detached, and then it's killed by the sanitizer in the wash water more easily. So from our findings, only the 100 parts per million of SDS actually significantly increased the log reduction of bacteria compared to when you just use peracetic acid. However, there was a lot of foam production in the production environment, and there's quite a bit of foam residue left on the kale as well. And obviously you can't give that to consumers. So even though it did have a really good log reduction of bacteria, you can see that it's not really viable for commercial production. So it's really great to be able to see how we have a lot of difficulties in sort of translating things from research into an actual commercial perspective. And in terms of this year, I did manage to continue working with One Harvest and Cultivate to assess the food safety culture at the One Harvest sites. And prior to doing my thesis, I sort of had a vague idea of what food safety culture was about, but I think ever since I've done my thesis, I not only understand what are all of the different factors that interplay to affect food safety culture, but how exactly do you go about assessing it in a very big commercial environment such as One Harvest? And I think what was really great was that because I did intern at One Harvest and got to see how all the processes occur at the Sydney and also the Bairnsdale site, then I was able to connect those experiences together with some of the comments made in the food safety culture assessment. And that really gave me a good understanding of how to interpret the results and formulate recommendations and conclusions from that. So that was an amazing opportunity that I was really happy to actually undertake. And just so I can sum everything up today, obviously in the last 2 years, I've gained a lot of experience that I would not have ever dreamed of obtaining during my degree. And I think one of the best things was actually looking through the auditing standards, because there were a lot more intricacies and details in there than I had never actually considered before. So that will definitely be really useful for me when I do go out into industry, hopefully in the future years. And lastly, just to finish off, as a part of our degree, we do get to do a lot of day-long field trips, which is absolutely amazing. But I think having that longer sort of internship, as well as doing our thesis this year, it's really given us a broader perspective of what there actually is out there and how to apply our knowledge into a more commercial and industrial setting. So I would like to thank One Harvest, Cultivate, and my supervisors this year, Mark and Harriet, for really giving me the opportunity to do all these things within the recent years. So yeah, that finishes up me for today.